South Carolina, welcome to a special edition of New Perspectives. It is Women's History Month, and I understand the importance of the mantle of leadership coming from women. And with that in mind, I was privileged and pleased and received the gracious acknowledgement and inclusion and involvement of Cynthia Hardy of On Point Media. She's a friend of this show. She's a friend of New Perspectives, and she found it to be no robbery to come down and step in the gap and host our show today.
I'll tell you what, Harvey, you know, all those good things you're saying about me, you make me feel real good. But, you know, I came partially because of you and partially because of the sisters you have, you know, kind of at your avail to interview on such special occasions.
Well, you know, it's all by divine alignment that these things take place in our lives.
I think it's a lot. It has a lot to do with you and the kind of guy you are.
Well, we're thankful to you for that. Again, it's Women's History Month, and the theme of the series of shows that we're going to be doing throughout the course of the month are women in leadership, women in history. And our guest this afternoon is Cynthia Wilson. She is the superintendent for Consolidated School District 5, and she's been doing an outstanding job at doing so, and I'm very pleased and privileged to be able to say that and to always be in her presence. I learn an awful lot from both of these ladies. And so with that in mind, I'm going to step away from the mic, and ladies, this is your opportunity to do your thing.
Superintendent Wilson, I am interested in what you think the reason is that Harvey Elwood thought that it would be good for you and I to have our banter among ourselves as opposed to putting him in the middle of it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's just celebrating Women's History Month.
Okay, I think that might be true because he's got a nice little gaze. I think he's going to get that camera out. Don't be paparazzi up in here now, Harvey.
No.
You know what, though, Cynthia Wilson, you've been in town now how long?
3 years.
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for superintendents, that's a real tough job. And I just want to say that a lot of people may not know just how tough it is. At your what you're responsible for is a portfolio of students, and along with those students, you make a commitment to the parents and to the community to do everything that you possibly can to help them to succeed in life, and that is a tall order.
It is. Thank you, Cynthia, for being here today. You're the reason I'm here. I know Harvey did ask me to come in today, but since you were going to be here, we always work well together. And
I love that.
And I so admire you, so I wanted to be here for this interview. Yes, it is our main thing to educate students and to make sure that they're safe and that they're learning each and every day. We also have a commitment to the county because we are the third largest employer. So when you look at it as in terms of what the district does and what it represents to the community, not only do we ensure the success of 7,000 students each and every day, we also serve in the role of economic development for the community.
You know, I know a number of superintendents throughout our states, and in addition to having to be responsible for what happens within the confines of the individual schools, as well as the extracurricular activities on the outside, you also work very strongly with a community board, a board of community leaders that have taken the oath and given their commitment to work hard on behalf of the children in your area. And so balancing all of those different things requires someone who's able to multitask very well. You've survived 3 years. I think you're passing the test.
Well, thank you. I will say that the tenure of superintendents is about 2 to 3 years. So whenever you make that 3-year mark, you kind of go out and celebrate and say, yeah, at least I made it past the average tenure of a superintendent, and pledge to do great work and to continue to be a significant contributor to the success of children.
Yeah, and you came to South Carolina from Houston, Texas.
I did.
And that was a huge school district, and it was divided into regions, I understand.
5 regions.
And you were the superintendent of one of those regions.
One of those regions, I led 64 schools and about 40,000 students. There, again, was responsible for about 5,000 employees.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you what everybody asks people who are from Houston. You know Beyonce?
I don't know her, but I do know her father.
How about that?
I guess that's my claim to fame.
Harvey, did you get a kick out of that?
Yeah. I'd like to know Beyonce too.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
When I sit here and enjoy the conversation and dialogue between the two of you guys, I am very excited because we talk about the level of leadership that you both provide in your professions, in your respective professions. You, in journalism, you are a standout host, both television and radio, and you are a woman, and you've broken the glass ceiling for the most part because of your professionalism and expertise. And it was so important for me to have you here, and I wanted the audience to hear, because from a man's perspective, it needs to be said. You know, I'm comfortable saying it and acknowledging your greatness because I identify with who I am as a person, you see. So often in life we have people who are not as confident or comfortable in their own skin, men who try to regulate and subjugate.
Ooh, you're going to get in trouble, man.
I got to tell it the way it is.
Okay.
You know, particularly.
Well, I'm just going to put it on the record. I don't know no man.
No. You see, and here's the thing. In a state like South Carolina, we talked about this off air. Because the Constitution of the United States, the women's suffrage movement, contributed greatly by Alpha Kappa Alpha, and the Delta Sigma sororities.
Delta Sigma Theta.
Okay. You know, it was a progressive movement that took place. You guys are getting ready to have a commemoration of the march up Pennsylvania Avenue, that big assemblage of women that culminated in the passage of the 19th Amendment, 1920. But at the same time, even after its ratification in 1920, the 19th Amendment's ratification, the state of South Carolina refused to acknowledge the right for women to vote until 1975. And that's an unknown fact for some people. And it's something they try to sweep under the rug like it never happened.
Oh, really?
South Carolina is still a state that only has one female state senator. And she wasn't brought in by either party, neither the Democratic or the Republican Party. She was afforded the opportunity where people could sign their names and bring them on. And so that was one of the reasons that we wanted to do this show. Because I strongly believe in female leadership and the great work that you guys have done and continue to do in this state.
You know, Harvey, a lot of times people talk a lot about discriminatory practices. And I don't know about Cynthia Wilson, but I would bet that this is the case, that we often feel our gender more often than we feel our race in competitive situations. When we are going for the big prize, it's often the limitations that are placed on the situation due to gender rather than due to race. And I think that that's not discussed enough, and I think that that gives us a real opportunity for a degree of bonding for all women, because we do understand that, and it's a delicate place to be. I mean, you know, I've been in my relationship now for 21 years, and I respect my husband greatly, and I know that there are differences between men and women, but I also know that there's some ways in which women should not be subjugated to certain areas, and so often that is the case, and I would just assume that because you are in an environment where white male leadership is generally at the top, and everybody else kind of fans on down from there.
Sure. In my position, you look at the data, and it tells us that about 80% of superintendents across the country are male. About 20% are female, and when you look at African American females, that percentage drops even further. So oftentimes, I do find myself the only in the room. And you have to ensure that you are not allowing people to use either your gender or other factors about you to lessen your role. And so, while you say that, yes, it is very true, but I'll also say I'm the first African American female superintendent in Orangeburg District 5. So, not only is it this huge perspective of things that have taken place historically, but those things are also taking place today. You asked the question to me, but I'll also say to you, you're probably when you view your pedagogy or your history, you can go back and say, I was a first this or I was a first that. So we are still in there fighting for certain issues that we may not be marching, in the streets to win the right to vote or other things, or equal pay. But there are still battles out there for women, and we fight them in different ways.
And that is so very true, and we do. And Harvey, I'm interested. Do you guys think us whiny when we have those kinds of conversations?
Well, again, I'm a confident man, so I don't have a problem with it. So, I come from a family of female leaders.
Okay.
My mother, her sisters, and so my situation is different. The other thing about it is that I'm a man who recognizes the importance of having a good partner next to me, a female who has the strength to push me forward to achieve great things. The President of the United States is my example, or one of the examples, as well as Dr. King, as well as Malcolm X. I knew both their wives, and it was through their strength as women that compelled or persuaded and assisted those men to be as great as they were. And they both held their own in society after their husbands were no longer here. And I was privileged to be in their company on a regular basis, especially Dr. Shabazz. I was in her company probably 2 or 3 times a week. And her strength as a woman and her strength as a person was, and her confidence was evident. And neither one of us were regulated to any position. She more or less treated me in a nephew type of a relationship, and I would look up to her as this great leader. And so but there are men, I'm sure, who may not have had my experiences in life or experiences with women, or again don't have the necessary level of confidence with themselves. Life to me supersedes gender.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Well, qualifications. Qualifications supersede gender.
Oh, yeah.
A person's qualification, what they bring to the table.
It should.
And life experiences.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
And so when we look at that, that's why I can look at the two of you and acknowledge and say how great you are, and I'm doing it very honestly.
I read something recently about transformational leadership, and it talked about the fact that there's a level of compassion that women often bring because of the nurturing nature of women, that when we run into a situation with employees, we are more likely to be concerned about what's going on in that employee's life than maybe a male counterpart, because they're just thinking different things. Do you feel that, Superintendent Wilson?
I think sometimes I do feel that, but as the transformational leader of a large organization and being fiscally responsible, I oftentimes have to make decisions that are in line with the goals of the organization.
I got you.
And so,
smart lady, and she Harvey. She see her move around that question, man. Good.
But you say people often think that women are whiny, but they also think that women are something else when they have to aggressively lead and make tough decisions. So we become labeled as one word or another. And, it's important for people to understand.
Then call that.
Yeah. If you're in any type of leadership position, you probably have. Sometimes you think that's your name. But, but you have to make sure that you use all of your skills and in all of your training, all your leadership experiences, as Harvey was speaking of earlier, to continue to move forward and to move that agenda forward, or the organizational goals.
Well, Harvey, thank you for having us.
Listen,
here.
I'm glad. Another one of my heroes in life, Dr. Shirley Chisholm, or Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, who I also had the privilege
You
of.
pulling out all these great women.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. She buttoned my clothes when I was playing in the snow. My nose
So
was
you
running.
started in South Carolina, but you left, and
And
you had
went
a
to-
whole life happening.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
glad you're
And
back to tell us
good
about
friend,
it.
good. I mean, I later knew her in life as I got involved in my own political world. And she was a leader for me and a mentor and somebody, I had a lot of great men, brothers, we were
understand.
down. But that nurturing that was provided by them and their guidance, they were the first ones to ever tell me to run for office. They were the first ones to, people like Lucille Rhodes and a whole bunch of other names, females that I can name, how strong they were. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is New Perspectives. This is a show about Women's History Month and women in leadership. And we've dropped a few names. And if you don't know those people or those names, get to know them. We've had 2 outstanding leaders in 2 perspective fields, education and journalism and media, Cynthia Wilson and Cynthia Hardy. Thank you so much for being our guest today. This has been a great experience for me, and we're going to take a break and come back a little later, and we may do some more of this or something similar. But thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
you.